Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Amin ya rabbal alamin. So just to follow up on the lecture that we were doing yesterday, we were talking about Tadabbur in the Quran, and we talked about the concept of how you need both tafsir and you need to do your own reflection to be able to come to the conclusions that the ayah is supposed to be giving to you as a person, as an individual, and the messages that you take away from the Quran, from the ayah, as you move along from ayah to ayah. What I wanted to start a preliminary discussion on is the concept of Hikma in the Quran. As opposed to, or as contrary to what many people will tell you, Hikma is not an additional thing. Hikma is not, oh, it's tafsir, tadabbur, and then Hikma. It's more, Hikma is the end goal. It's the end product. It should be the end product of what you're gaining from the Quran. Hikmah is defined as a combination of knowledge and experiences. So if I were to put it into plain English for you, Hikmah would be the understanding that you have of how something works or how something propagates itself in this world through the knowledge that you've gained and the experiences that you've gained in your life. The combination of these two, the equation of knowledge plus experience, equates to hikmah. It can be translated literally to wisdom. And wisdom is understood as someone who's been through, lived through certain things, and they know how it works. They know the intricacies of it because they've seen it firsthand. They've done it firsthand, and they've gathered that much practice in it that they have a general idea of what it means and how it works. So if we put that equation into the Quran, we've gone through the tafsir, we've done the tadabbur, so we've done the deep reflection, we've come out into the open, we've looked at Allah's world, we've thought about how a bird flies and how Ar-Rahman keeps it in the air. And then we put that knowledge and experience together and move on to the next ayah, move on to the next ayah, move on to the next ayah, until you've gathered enough knowledge and wisdom to start formulating. So if someone were to ask you, how does this realm of Allah's world work? What would you say is the base idea there? Or what would you say Allah has commented on this? So just to give you an example here, because it's not easy to explain just in a few words, I feel like examples are the best way to do that, and the Quran does that as well. Quran gives examples, and it sets parables and basically comparisons so that we understand what Allah is saying. Let's say about the concept of how do we seek Allah's help, like who gets Allah's help, how does Allah's help come? There are multiple ayahs in the Quran. So if we're basing, let's say, if we're basing our understanding of that concept of how does Allah's help come from one ayah, so let's say Surah Al-Fatiha, Allah says, Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. We say to Allah, we do your ibadah, and then we ask for your help. So there's an equation there, right? So we have to first, we have to worship Allah in the way that He deserves. We have to be His abd in the way that He deserves, and the way that is set out for us. And then we have to seek Allah's help. So now that's a very simple equation, right? And you do your tadabbur, and you read extensively on tafsir, and you watch lectures, and you see what experts have said. it's very easy to come to conclusions from that ayah. But is that hikmah? Is that hikmah? Because there are other places in the Quran where Allah has talked about either the same concept or very similar concepts. And Allah uses different words in different places. He uses the same word in some places. And what needs to happen, so let's say coming to Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah number 153, where Allah says, "O you who believe, seek help through prayer, sabr and prayer." Now, my next job, after I've done the tafsir, after I've done the tadabbur of both these ayah, is to link and connect and compare these two ayah to figure out why Allah is talking about the same thing, right? Seek help. He does, so yes, the concept of ibadah does contain sabr, and it contains salah, and it contains so many other things. But then why does Allah mention these two things specifically here? Why does Allah mention these two things specifically here? And then in other places in the Quran, Allah says, do you think you're going to get help when you do this? Or Allah says, expect Allah's help to come down to you after these things have happened, after you've established these things, after you've understood these things and you've been able to implement these things in your life. So now my job is to do the tafsir, read the tafsir, study the tafsir, study the ayah myself, do the tadabbur, but then I have to compare these few ayahs together, compile them in one place, and do almost what I would say a cross-referencing analysis of why Allah says these different things in different places. Eventually, inshallah, hopefully what happens as a result of that is that you start to gain what I would call insights into what exactly is Allah trying to get at. What is Allah getting at in these ayah? And that should lead you to a place that you've come to realize that it's not just one thing, but there's a multitude of things that Allah wants from us for getting His help. But then again, on the contrary, there's a base understanding that's going to evolve from you studying, analyzing all of these ayahs together. And that base understanding will help you formulate a vision, an idea of how to lead your life, how to propagate your demeanor, how to carry yourself in this life, with who, with and how, in the way that Allah has asked us to do. Another good example that I want to give is something that I've been struggling with a lot. So throughout my life, these are things that I've studied and known for a long time. But then as you go through life, you start to understand them deeply because then now you've gone through them, right? Kind of the parable between learning to drive through a video game or a simulation and actually learning to drive on the road in a real car, in a real life situation. So one thing that I've been struggling with is Allah saying, you know, I've created you in problems, I've created you in kabad, and you're going to go through struggles and trials and tests all your life. But then in one place in the Quran, and the context of this ayah is Musa alayhi salam talking to his people right after they've been saved from Fir'aun, but then they land up in a desert with no food, no water, suffering families, thirsty, hungry, tired, battered, and exhausted from the years and years of torment that they've been through. And Allah says to them, or through Musa alayhi salam, be grateful. Not be patient, be grateful. That's a very strange ayah, right? And if you read the tafsir and you see some lectures on it, you understand the base meaning that Allah is saying that even in these hardest times, if you are able to still be grateful for the things that Allah has, the numerous, endless things that Allah still is doing for you, because He is Ar-Rahman. He's giving you, He's giving you, He's giving you. Even in the worst situation that you can imagine, He's giving you certain things that you would not have unless He was giving it to you. And you should be grateful. And if you are able to be grateful, I will definitely increase you, is what Allah says in that ayah. And this is something that I've been listening to, reading, studying, doing Tadabbur on for years now. In all honesty, for years. But it's only recently that I understood how to be, like, what I didn't really catch, what I wasn't able to capture through these years, through the struggles, is how do I be grateful when all I can think about is my problem? How do I be grateful when the thing that I really want is not there, or I'm not getting it? And it's been so long that I've been wanting it. And it's not like I don't want to be grateful. I want to be grateful, and I force myself to be grateful, but I'm not feeling it from the heart. Because I'm overwhelmed by my problems. I'm overwhelmed by the trials and tests that are going on in my life, and that's all I can think about. And so even when I'm trying, I know I need to be grateful. I know that that's what Allah wants me to do, but then I don't truly understand how to do it. But then Allah puts you through more experiences, and He puts you through more experiences, and He puts you through certain things in certain ways that He hasn't done before. And what happens as a result is you see these things in action. And so you sit there and you think, what can I be grateful for? What can I be grateful for? And oh, I have this, but you don't feel it from the heart. But then eventually, when you start to realize, as you grow older, you go through these experiences, you start to realize the value of the things that Allah is giving you, despite the things that He's taken away from you. That value, when it starts to resonate in your heart, gratefulness comes automatically. And so that knowledge combined, the experience combined, and then now the new arisen understanding together with the other two enables you to do what Allah wants you to do. And so the ayah in the Quran is very simple. It's very straightforward. Be grateful, I'll increase you. And there's huge tafsir regarding this ayah that I'm not going to get into. But to be able to actually do it is a long, long journey, I would say, for most people, if not all people. A long, long journey that you actually have to live, you actually have to go through. What I'm trying to get at here is that Hikma is not something that you just gain from studying the Quran. Hikma is the intellectual part of the Quran, gathering that, the spiritual part of the Quran, feeling it, and then living that life, going through that, thinking about it every day, trying your best to attain it. And Allah literally says in the Quran, it's not until you put your effort, again we were talking about how to get Allah's help, and it's not until you put your effort is when I'm going to give you what you want, or I'm going to find you a way, or I'm going to show you the path to take to get to where you want to get to. But you have to actively search for that, right? But the biggest problem there, or problem I would say, barrier, is that it takes time. It takes time, it takes patience, it takes you constantly thinking. And then from there, and this is what Allah talks about in the Quran about barakah, from there new understandings start to emerge. And oh, that's what Allah meant by seek help through salah and sabr. So I need the patience. For sure, I'm going to go through these trials. And they're going to be long, and it's going to take time. Allah says, I work subtly. I don't give you things just the moment you want. Things don't happen the moment that you think they're going to happen because you're so used to getting things fast. They're going to happen on my time. And Allah's time, Allah is subtle in the things that He does. You won't realize it. All of a sudden it's there. All of a sudden you understand, oh, well, you know what? I've reached that place that I was trying to reach. And then you understand, okay, so now I've done the a'bud, and now Allah's help has come. The effort that I put in for so long has eventually paid off to a place where Allah has not only given it to me, but now I understand. And you know how the scholars say, you know what, you go through trials and eventually when you get to the other side, you can understand the value of that. You know, you don't understand it then. Why am I going through this? I don't even see the reason. But then when you're there, you understand, oh, okay, that's why Allah put me through all this. That's why I needed to go through that hard, heart-clenching, agonizing moments of my life that I didn't see any reason for whatsoever. And I asked Allah, Allah, why are you putting me through this? I don't understand. But then eventually when you get there, you understand the value of having gone through that experience. And then you also understand that had I not gone through that experience, had I not done that, or had I not gone through that bad phase in my life, however, you know, agonizing it was, I would not have come to the place of understanding that I am right now. Hopefully what I've been able to do today here is give you kind of a preliminary understanding of hikmah. Hikmah is a huge, huge topic in the Quran. And we're going to try and cover some ground on it as much as possible, inshallah, to the point where we're able to grasp a fair understanding of what kind of hikmah Allah is asking us to look for in the Quran, and how not only are we supposed to attain the hikmah, but also be able to benefit the world with that hikmah. Because the purpose, the end goal of gaining hikmah is that you can benefit the world, right? I mean, if you gain the hikmah and you say, oh, I'm a very wise person, and that in itself is a bad thing. And eventually the hikmah and the gaining of the hikmah and the benefit that I do to other people, the end goal of that is to be able to stand in front of Allah and say, Allah, I've done what you asked me to do on the Day of Judgment. And inshallah, may Allah give us that ability to get there, be able to stand in front of Allah and say, Allah, I did as much as I could, I gained as much as I could from the Quran with your permission, and today I stand in front of you with all that humility and all that effort in hopes of reward, inshallah. Barakallahu fi wa lakum fil Qur'anil Hakim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.